Welcome to the American Institute of Healthcare Professionals Christian Counseling video on identifying false prophets and mystics. And in this day and age, there are many individuals advertising religion, and there are many individuals who are thirsty enough to seek out these types of advertisements to try to find that special spiritual experience in itself. And unfortunately, when individuals are that thirsty for spirituality and they're seeking these things out, they become prey to various false prophets and mystics who can mislead them from the truth and the faith that they already possess. So religion historically can be a tool for the wicked and be a tool to misguide. In the name of religion, many atrocities have been committed throughout history and justified through false prophets. So any creed, faith, or belief system is suspect to possible corruption by false teachers and mystics. St. Paul warned us to avoid those who present doctrines different than what has been taught and handed down. So there you have it directly from Scripture to warn. If it is not what has been handed down, to avoid it. So many false prophets are not only heretical in nature, in that what the Apostle Paul warned, presenting false doctrines, but they can also manipulate the faith of people and of the faith to present it for their own needs. So they prey upon the sheep of the flock, so to speak. So it's very important then for pastors, spiritual directors, Christian counselors, priests, and others of spiritual authority, bishops and so forth, to protect their sheep from these false teachers by exposing them for what they truly are. If we look at a diagram of what a false mystic and prophet is, I think it's important to note that most false mystics or prophets are not truly religious or in themselves even a believer. They may not be of God, but they definitely are from Satan, either indirectly or directly. And their purpose is to deceive. They themselves may be confused or disobedient to the faith on more minor levels. They may be driven by their own hubris, especially if it's not so much a prophet, but maybe a mystic who believes that they are seeing God or Mary or a saint. In many cases, those who boast, in terms of mystics, who boast of visions of God or the saints, especially if they boast of it in public, they're seeking control of some type. They want attention. They want publicity. Contrary, most legitimate visionaries and mystics prefer isolation, and they're only pushed forward with their message by the proper authorities out of obedience, but they're always humble. Instead, many who are false in their visions and mystics, they boast and they see religion kind of like a social club where they can outdo another religious feats. Oh, this particular saint's appearing to me. They haven't appeared to you. That type of attitude. So their faith is based more on public perception than a true spirituality. Also, especially with prophets and mystics that are false, we're going to see many promises and messages and prophecies, and they usually involve some sort of doomsday scenario that are very ambiguous at best. Now, do they ever occur? Usually not, because they're not a true message. But many are caught in the present, and they don't wait until the message can be fulfilled. So they're following these individuals on the premise that these things will occur. It is still possible that many false mystics and prophets also have severe psychosis, especially if not properly vetted by spiritual authorities. Others may even more deviously attempt to control others for financial gain. Others will use believers to reach certain goals and ends. And many eventually end up deviating from the primary religious creed and forming their own branch, forming their own cult of devoted followers. In the end, faith is used as a tool to manipulate and control the faithful. Propaganda and end of time jargon is always a prerequisite with these types of individuals. So, how do they attract individuals? How do they attract people who are devoutly religious? It's really amazing that so many religious individuals with core principles of faith will accept and adopt these new extremist views of the false prophet or the message of the false mystic. Many will also not only abandon their faith that they grew up in, but they'll abandon their life itself and sacrifice everything for this false mystic or leader. So it's kind of a pathological religiosity. It's not a healthy faith. It's not a healthy spirituality. So many of these sheep will wander off from the shepherd if we use that particular analogy. And what we see is many have very immature faith principles regarding miracles and the supernatural. So their spirituality is not deeply rooted in the everyday, but their faith is not very well developed, and they're out miracle shopping, miracle chasing, in a sense, to find anything they can. And many will search for the extraordinary due to their extreme spiritual thirst, and they want a verification of their faith. They want to see. They want to be like Thomas. They want to see, they want to touch. Their spirituality at this point is not as well developed. Many also have been spurned by a religious community, and they want to feel important. And if they're with the latest fad, then they're on top of things. And they finally found a group that accepts them, and they will spread the word of this particular individual. Again, many are not well educated in the faith, and many possess a fundamentalist type understanding of the faith itself. Finally, psychologically, many have past trauma, mental abuse, and they're more easily manipulated due to these mental facilities. Like groupies for a particular band, they become spiritual groupies, and this does exist. It's the same psychological disorder, but it's in a religious circle. Religion is not immune to psychological issues, so we can see the same type of rabid superfan exist within religion, even though it's not properly based. Just because it's religious doesn't make it superior. It can have the same extremity that can lead to various problems. So it's important to understand not only the psychology of the false prophet, or in this case maybe a false mystic, but also the psychology of those who follow. So it's very important to verify the true from the false, because as Christians, we believe that there are true mystics. As Christians, we do believe that there are true prophets. So it's very important to obey, to respect church authority. Individuals should listen to their primary shepherd, the pastor or the priest. In the Catholic faith, especially in the Catholic faith, there's so many apparitions. Everything is investigated first by the local bishop, which is then considered to be verified or not, and then for the universal church, which is then to be shared and experienced once approval is granted. And these approvals are very important in preventing individuals from following a false message. So the church investigates the message of the prophet or visionary. And in all cases, and this should be discernment for any individual, does the message conform or grow from existing doctrines and scriptural teachings? The moment it doesn't, we should know that something is not of a good fruit. Secondly, the church will investigate the visionary, the mystic, or the prophet. Is the person of sound mind? Do they have mental issues? Third, the church investigates the miracles and examines if there's any natural explanations for them. What's going on with this particular phenomenon? The church will also investigate the messages or the prophecies. So from this particular apparition, what are the fruits of this message? Are they being fulfilled? And are the promises being kept? And this is the one that takes time. especially with a lot of these mystics or false prophets that have doomsday calendars and so forth. So after that, all of the miracles that stem maybe from the apparition or the mystic's message are analyzed and understood to see if they're legitimately from God or not. So the church can approve or disapprove on many of these apparitions, individuals, and so forth. Now, some denominations are not as structured as the Catholic Church or the Orthodox Church. So it's important when these types of individuals appear within the community, claiming to have seen this or that, or if an apparition is occurring, or if there's someone given a message from God, it's important to have discernment even internally and to follow a lot of these things that I just said so that you don't become victim to something like that. Now, are we bound to obey what these things are said from mystics and apparitions? And the answer is no. They're considered private revelation of an individual, which in no means supersedes the teachings of Scripture, which are from God directly for all of humanity. While they might be good and wholesome and complement and recommended, it's not necessarily something that you would have to follow. So this is important to understand moving forward with legitimate, approved mystics and prophets, but most importantly, to walk away from false mystics who can confuse you or mislead you, and at a higher level, more dangerous level, false prophets who can lead you completely away from the faith itself. So we are AIHCP. We offer a Christian counseling certification. The link's below. Our number is 330-652-7776. And our email is info@aihcp.org. I'd like to thank you for listening and have a good day.